Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast. It's Throwback Thursday, and it's a fun one today. We're presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. Fellas, it is good to see you. Lawrence is producing the show today. He is in the room with us.
I'm so excited.
He wants to be part of the show, and who can blame him? Today we are going to recap the 2010 Blackhawks Stanley Cup Championship. Last week we did the regular season. This week it is the playoffs, and a lot of good things happened for the Blackhawks in the playoffs. You can see over my shoulder my old-ass felt banner that has none of the updated Stanley Cups on it, but I'm not dropping another $75 for a new one.
Yeah, those things are not cheap.
I've got one of those right here on my wall. It's actually signed by Dennis Savard. So,
hey,
yeah. Nice.
There you go.
I went into the back of the closet and I pulled out my OG 32 Christopher Stieg jersey that has the 2010 final patch on it. I wore this jersey for pretty much every single playoff game that summer. It has some war wounds on it, but it's got character.
Speaking of war wounds, if you see the hat I'm wearing, this is a hat I bought for that cup run, and I still wear it to this day when I'm playing baseball or whatever. I'm outside, sweat rings. It is faded. It is stained. It is not exactly straight in the bill anymore, but I figured I had to pull this bad boy out for this show in particular.
I got the 2013 Cup hat, and it is my my yard work hat. So it smells like grass, and it is sweaty and stained. It's pretty gross. I'm surprised it's still alive.
Well,
I just like to see that. I like to see that Jay has 4 feathers on his hat.
Yep,
you've given yourself. You're
he's
a full
given himself. He's given himself an A.
He evaluated himself at full
shave
marks.
like 2 of these off, just remove them.
You're no Kirby Doc.
No, it's certainly not. Hey, by the way, good tease there, Lawrence. If you missed it, we published our player evaluations piece on allchgo.com. It's kind of the companion to our episode yesterday where we evaluated Kirby Doc and Eric Gustafsson. All right, but before we get into reliving the 2010 Stanley Cup playoffs, we have to get to some of the news of the day. Frank Saravalli of the fourth period, of the Daily Faceoff, my bad, and he is the president of the PHWA, the Professional Hockey Writers Association, has some coaching updates on the Blackhawks. The Hawks have sought permission to interview Canadiens assistant Luke Richardson and Canucks assistant Brad Shaw. He also notes that Derek King is still a strong candidate. So Luke Richardson and Brad Shaw added to the list of what we already have of Derek King, Todd Reirden, and a somewhat less official Barry Trotz. I think that was more of a feeler situation as I'm learning more about it as we go here. But the names are piling up, and any of these names jump off the page for either of you fellas?
I mean, my first question is, like, why are they not also interviewing Farouk? Like, just Bradshaw?
They want the clothesline from hell.
I got that. Yeah, that took a second, but I got it. Nice one.
My God. His finishing move is a clothesline, by the way.
Damn.
Someone who's pretty strong. I'm glad I derailed everything right off the bat. It's fine. It doesn't make me all that excited. Luke Richardson, okay, cool. It's not something that I'm gonna, pound the table and say one of these guys has to be the coach. I think what's interesting is, we're Reirden, Richardson, Shaw. I think we're seeing a lot of coaches that the Blackhawks are going to be going after that may not be the marquee names, and that could be by design because they want someone fresh. Part of me would really appreciate if they don't just go the old, carousel route and just hire another retread. I'd be very appreciative if they don't do that. But also they might understand that they're not going to entice the big names because they're looking into not winning right away. So it might be a coach that has been an assistant for a while or has been an assistant for a successful team. It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, I think it's fine. I'm not losing my mind over it.
No, and I'm looking here, at the list we have, Brad Shaw, he replaced Mike Babcock in Cincinnati. He coached under Mike Kitchen, Murray, Payne, Hitchcock, Richards, Tortorella, Green, Boudreau. Reirden is coached under Bilesma and Mike Sullivan and Barry Trotz, of course. And Luke Richardson, under Doug Wade and Claude Julien. And like, so a lot of these guys have coached under some of the bigger names in coaching, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I have to say, I'm a little surprised that Kyle Davidson is not going after like less experienced guys. These are guys who have been around. They've been in and out of organizations. They've been fired and hired and assistants and head coaches. They're not really like Tortorella retreads or things like that. They're just like guys who have always kind of been there, but haven't really taken that next step in coaching. And I don't know, that to me, that's a little surprising. And I don't really know why. We don't really have much to base our knowledge of Kyle Davidson on, but I just expected him to be a little more, I hate to say the word creative because it sounds like a criticism. It's not. It's just an observation. He's going for guys who have done this for a long time, and maybe that's going to part of the presence thing that he was so that he emphasized so heavily.
I think that's probably the direction.
Yeah, and if you don't want to go, you gotta just can't take a guy off the street and say, "Hey, you've never coached. Come here. You're a new guy." Richardson, but with Reardon and Richardson, it appears that he's looking for a guy that wants to play defense. Like Reardon was in charge of the defense in Pittsburgh, did a really good job. Luke Richardson is a former defenseman, was a defensive guy in Montreal, technically has some Stanley Cup playoff experience as a head coach. Remember, he filled in during their little COVID run to the Cup last year. So it's definitely looking like he's looking for a defensive minded coach, which if you've watched this team at all in the last 6 years, thank you. Like, yes, you can't. We don't have the guns to outscore people 7-6. And if you ask the Toronto Maple Leafs, that doesn't really work when you need it to anyway. So let's get some Oilers defense. Yeah, or the Oilers. Well, the Oilers could if they had a goalie.
The Oilers.
Right. True.
That would be helpful.
Yes,
it is usually good to have a goalie. So it's interesting, like you said, there's no one here that's really going to get you excited or angry either way.
And I never expected any of those guys either.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad we're not seeing, Tortorella on this list.
Yeah.
Right?
Or Rick Tocchet. Keep Rick Tocchet the hell away from the Chicago Blackhawks.
Stop saying Tortorella's name. He should be another who shouldn't be named guy.
But if any of the
good dude, I just don't want him coaching my hockey team. He's a huge dog rescue guy. Yes, he's like rescued like thousands of dogs. Does
he then beat them? I feel like he's the type of guy that would beat a dog, doesn't he?
No, just a young hockey player.
For the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. We are not claiming that John Tortorella beats dogs.
I know, but isn't Torts pretty much a not great guy? I don't know.
He's a hard ass coach, but he's a good dude.
He's an old school hard ass coach, which I don't think would connect well with a young team.
Yeah, and he hates fun. Doesn't he hate the Zegras, like the lacrosse style goal and all that?
He would have a talking to with Trevor Zegras if he tried to pull that. So awesome. Point my exhibit A through Z of like get him away.
Why
from
we
a
don't
team
want
that's
him
going to be young. Yeah. No,
but off the ice, he does a lot of dog rescues and he does a lot of work for veterans charity. So he has a heart. It's just it's small and cold, but he does have one.
Tony La Russa does all that stuff.
Oh God damn it, Jay! Did you have to bring him up?
I'm just pointing it out. It's a fact.
Yeah, but Tortorella does it sober. That's the difference.
We gotta be careful. Once again, Greg Boysen does not speak for the All City or CHGO Blackhawks podcast, even though he does actually officially do both those things.
I'll step out for
police reports speak for themselves.
You're right. You're not saying anything that hasn't been seen on camera. Or
there are court
1, 2, 3, 9.
There are court records that back my statement.
Yeah. The other bit of news, kind of buried in a piece today on The Athletic, where Scott Powers and Shayna Goldman, two of the best hockey writers in town, two of my favorites, kind of were breaking down how the Hawks should really just go full bore, trade everybody, and start from the bottom, because a little bit ago, The Athletic ran a piece on what are the things you need to be a Stanley Cup contender, and the only one the Hawks have is Alex DeBrincat. So here's a quote from a source in their story. I doubt DeBrincat is with the team through next season. He's either traded this summer or at the next deadline. That's the end of the quote. The source also expected Kane and Taves to be gone before the end of 2022-23. The source thought the Blackhawks would be willing to eat half of both the players' salaries to maximize the deals. Nothing we haven't really heard before. I am getting more and more.
That's coming from a league source, not like a team source, just to kind of clarify, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. But league sources no, because they're sniffing around and they're trying to look to see if these players are available. But yes, that is a clear point. I spoke to a team source today about the DeBrincat thing, and they sort of said, well, I haven't really heard that about DeBrincat, but it would take a package that would absolutely blow their doors off to move Alex DeBrincat. So it's not off the table, but I think I don't think they're actively shopping Alex DeBrincat at this point. If some team's going to come in and say, hey, we're going to give you 5 first-round picks and Connor McDavid, well, yeah, we're you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not that big, obviously, but you know what I'm saying.
And that goes along with what Friedman said.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a major difference between willing to listen to offers and actively shopping a player. So I think Kyle Davidson should be willing to listen to offers for every single person in that organization, from Alex DeBrincat to the beer vendor in section 302. Like, nobody should be safe. So
and that does include Taze and Kane.
Absolutely.
Obviously they'd have to waive their no moves. We understand that. But if a team is going to come forward with something that is enticing to the Blackhawks enough for them to go to those players and say, this is a deal we have in place. What are your thoughts? What do you want to do? Do you want to be here? Do you want to go there?
Nobody in this organization should be claimed untouchable right now. There should be a couple that are like, I really don't want to trade him, but I will if you make it worth my while. But there are no untouchable players in this organization right now. And they probably won't have an untouchable player for another year or two. They're in no position to say no to adding major assets to this organization. So trading just to trade, not a great idea, but trading to accelerate this rebuild and get you as many bites at the rebuilding apple as you possibly can, then that's good business.
All right, before we get to our happy memories from 12 years ago today, and slightly before that, obviously, I want to remind everybody that the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use that code CHGO when you sign up. Do that right now, and you're going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but that's not all. Make a $50 or more first-time deposit, and you'll receive a free CHGO membership. That gets you all of our great web content and even a free t-shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet. It's your home for live in-play betting, and it just got even better. Introducing their new feature, Live NBA Same Game Parlay. For the first time ever, you can build your perfect live NBA Same Game Parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game, and if you want more, you can also boost your live Same Game Parlays. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And now online sign-up is available in Illinois, so you can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. See, I got a phone here. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
And a great way to support not only CHGO, the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, and yourself is to get yourself some AG1 from Athletic Greens. It's a formula designed to improve your gut health, optimize your immune system, and give you more natural energy. In just 1 scoop of AG1, you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day off right. If you have different dietary restrictions, AG1 is good to go with those as well, whether it's gluten-free or dairy-free or vegan, whatever it is, AG1 can fit into those restrictions. And it's easy to incorporate into your life, no matter how busy you might be. It's a once-a-day habit with big benefits. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop of water, 1 scoop of AG1 in a cup of water every day. That's all it needs to be. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks. That is athleticgreens.com/CHGO Blackhawks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
So real quick before we move on, I was clicking through my Twitter while you were doing your read there, Mario, and Frank Saravalli is live on the Daily Faceoff right now, and on the screen, top trade targets of the offseason. Number 1, Alex DeBrincat.
Hey,
so bring it on.
Yeah, it's
bring it on.
But just to clarify, go
look,
back up the armored truck right to United Center. Make it happen.
I mean, look, Saravalli was the one pumping Hagel's tires, and we all said, I don't think that's going to happen. Here we are again.
The angle on the Athletic story is the Hawks will not be bad enough to tank as currently constructed and need to get worse.
You say that.
And you watch the last 6 weeks of the season with no goaltender?
We thought that last summer, too.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. And Koopa Scoop says I'm all in favor of tanking next season. I think the fans are ready. The fans are ready for it. They know it's time.
If you're going to be bad, be super bad and get good again quickly.
It's been enough time has passed where they've been bad, and now it's like, hey, you know what? It's sunk in. They're not going to be good.
I just want to be on the record, though, that they can still do this with Alex DeBrincat here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
So unless it is a, oh my God, you're crazy, yes, deal.
They were bad enough to get the 7th pick overall with Alex DeBrincat having a career year.
Right.
Yeah.
And Patrick Kane putting up 90 points.
Right. So don't tell me that this current roster is not bad enough to get the number 1 over pick. Sure they are. You can easily make this roster even worse.
And not
even trying.
And not every team that bottoms out and is in the lottery is devoid of superstars. Like we've seen teams that have top talent, all-star level players get the 1st, 2nd, 3rd pick. So it's right. not a recipe that you have to be completely.
But if trading Alex DeBrincat for a massive haul this summer gets you Connor Bedard next summer, okay,
sure, I'm fine. Okay,
with it. I love Alex DeBrincat, but I think Connor Bedard is going to be a little bit better than Alex DeBrincat when it's all said and done.
And it would be a shot at Connor Bedard plus more.
Plus whatever you get for Alex DeBrincat. That's a really good way to make your team good in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
All right, let's have some fun.
Let's think about a team that actually was good. Yeah, let's talk about a team that had no inclination of tanking whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that would be our beloved 2010 Chicago Blackhawks.
So I think it's we did it last week. I think we should start by just reiterating what we said at the beginning of the podcast last week when talking about this team, acknowledging that, the timeline that we're about to go through involves what happened to Kyle Beach in 2010. And we fully acknowledge the awfulness that it was and the cover up by the Blackhawks that it turned out to be equally or worse as awful as that was of what happened to Kyle Beach. So just wanted to also address that. And we the three of us fully understand that it's weird to go through these memories, but we want to have some fun and go through the 2010 team and the postseason, and today being the 12-year anniversary of Patrick Kane scoring the overtime winner against the Flyers. It's a good time to go through those memories, but yeah, just wanted to make mention of that and go from there. So
yep, thank you for doing that.
Perfectly done. So as we went through our last episode, we recapped the regular season of the 2009-10 season, and we learned that this was the first time the Blackhawks qualified for back-to-back Stanley Cup appearances since 1996 and 1997, and they won the good old Central Division there. It was their first division title since 1993, so it'd been a long time since they had this kind of success. And they got the 2nd overall seed in the Western Conference, only behind the San Jose Sharks, who won the President's Trophy for having the most points in the league. More on those guys later.
No, they were 2nd in the league. The Caps won the President's Trophy.
Oh, right, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Sharks won the West. Yeah,
Sharks had the most points in the Western Conference, and they.
I don't know if they raised the banner like the Predators did, but they won the West.
Well, the Sharks will make a brief cameo appearance in this story shortly.
Brief.
Yes, very brief. But so the Blackhawks entered as the second seed in the Western Conference with 112 points, and they got to take on the Nashville Predators, who were the seventh seed with 100 points. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That the seventh seed in the Western Conference had 100 points.
That's like the East this year.
Yeah. So they weren't anything to really, take lightly, even though the Hawks had won 4 of the 6 regular season matches. But this is where the Predators really started to become a pain in the ass for the Blackhawks. Like, they gave them more than they can handle in this series. In 2015, they faced each other again in the playoffs, and they gave them more than they can handle. And of course, 2017, the Hawks made a brief cameo appearance in the Nashville Predators postseason run that year. So this was the first meeting in the postseason between these two teams. They would meet 3 times over the next 7 years. The Hawks did get dispatch them in 6 games, but didn't start off very well. That game 1 at the United Center, the Predators scored 3 third-period goals to win 4-1, and I remember being so irrationally pissed off after this game. Like, I literally was like, "Oh, this whole season was bull crap. They're not gonna do that." Like, we hadn't learned those lessons yet to never count out this Blackhawks team.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, "Oh my God, what a bunch of choke artists. I can't believe we're gonna lose to this bum ass Predators team." And I learned my lessons the hard way, but I just remember being so angry that night.
Yeah, the expectations are huge, and going into that, they had the best regular season in franchise history, 52 wins, 112 points, all those great things, Central Division title, of course. And everyone's like, here we go, right? Hossa comes in November, and the Hawks are just steamrolling everybody. But the Predators are a perennial pain in the ass. That's what they do. That's what they are. That's what they always are. And that team gets up for the Hawks more than anyone, especially during that time, because I think to Nashville fans, the Hawks are their biggest rival, whereas Hawks fans are like, "Oh, okay, that's cute." I think the Nashville fans really think of Chicago as their
go
main
smash
rival.
your car. That's so adorable.
Yeah. Well, because the Hawks fans come down to Nashville and they're loud and they're ever present, and I get that. I get that feeling, and the playoff history, of course, but they're a perpetual pain in the ass. And this series was the first real example we had of that.
Yeah, and the Hawks bounced back well. Antti Niemi made 23 saves for his first career postseason shutout, a 2-0 win. The series then went back to Nashville, but the Predators, again, just not going anywhere. They ended up winning game 3 by a 4-1 score. They scored 3 times in the final 40 minutes, including a penalty shot by Washington Capitals legend Martin Erat. So here we are again. It's the 2 4-1 losses. And you're down 2-1 going game 4 into Nashville. But then again, Niemi steps up and they win 3-0 to tie that game. So apparently the recipe of the success for this series was don't let Nashville score and we win games.
It's a bold strategy. Yeah.
Interesting.
It just might work. Allowing 4 goals a game is not a good idea. And then they allowed 4 goals in game 5. But as we know, that was a pretty memorable freaking game. Maybe my favorite Blackhawk game I was ever at in person. Just absolute crazy. We talked a lot about this game in our Mario and Hossa Love Fest episode a few weeks back. If you want to check that out. Of course, we all remember this game. Down 4-3 late in the regulation. Marian Hossa sent off for a 5-minute major for boarding. They pull the goalie. Patrick Kane scores what was a shorthanded goal, technically in the books, in the final minute of regulation to send it to overtime. Place is going absolutely nuts. I remember sitting there. This is when I still had season tickets. I remember sitting there like with that final TV timeout, and the Hawks are down a goal with a couple minutes left, and we were talking to all our buddies in our section, like saying, "Hey, this could be our last time here until next fall. So if we don't see you again, have a good summer," because the Hawks were so close to going down 3-2 with the series going back to Nashville. So it was kind of, and then Kane gets that goal. The buzz in that building during overtime, during that intermission was insane. But then after like a couple of minutes, you start to realize, crap, the Hawks still have 4 minutes of a power play to kill off to start overtime. And they do it. And Hossa comes right out of the box, goes right to the side of the net, scores the goal, goes from the GOAT to the hero in a blink of an eye. It's 5-4. The Hawks win. Just one of the iconic games in the history of the franchise. You know, this is one of those games that is right up there with, I mean, that's on a Mount Rushmore of playoff wins for this franchise.
Yep.
All you have to do is say Nashville Game 5 and a Hawks fan will smile at you. They know exactly what you're talking
Marian
about.
Hossa on his knees, skating, celebrating. Brent Sopel knocking Martin Erat down 2 seconds after the goal scored for no reason. You know, just
why not?
Joel Ward
standing there.
Joel Ward just standing there watching Patrick Kane score the game-tying goal. You know, lots of good stuff in that memorable game. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even remember Game 6 at all.
No,
I just remember Game 5.
Yeah, for real, you're right. And Chris Versteeg, reflecting on that series, said right there, we knew this team might be a team of destiny. Like that was the sort of thing. Because if you remember, Game 5 sucked. It was like the biggest slog, like slow pucks bouncing, passes missing. It was like your classic game against Nashville, where like the Hawks could not generate anything with any sort of consistency. And then they're down, and it's like, oh my God, the whole game felt like a slog until Kane ties it. And then you've got hope. And then boom, Hossa out of the box right away scores. I think it really flipped the playoffs on its head for the Hawks. Like to them, like Versteeg said, that was the moment they knew, like, all right, like we can do this. Like we killed a 5-minute penalty with one of our best penalty killers in the box for the entirety of that PK. Then he comes out and wins it. We got this dude, and we got Kane, and we got Taves, and you go on and on. You start to look around the room like, holy shit, we are a cup contender. And Versteeg himself says it, like, this is the way, you know, this is the kind of team that can win a cup. And I think that game went a long way to those guys realizing that.
Yeah. I mean, you have the regular season that they did, and you had to know, okay, this is a good team. Like this is a team that it's talented. They got the right people there, but you know, in the postseason, they had to face some adversity, and the Nashville series was full of it. But for that moment to happen where they could overcome not only, you know, a late third period, you know, down a goal, down a man, and be able to force overtime, and then be able to, you know, kill off the rest of the penalty and then get to overtime winner. That was the start of something really special. And it's crazy to think, like, if Kane doesn't score that goal, they don't get to overtime. They don't have any kind of, you know, maybe their you know, their mentality is a bit defeated and going into Game 6 on the road. If they lose in that first round, whole different 2010s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whole different 2010s.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You can make the argument that the Game 5 win is the most important playoff win in Blackhawks franchise history. It altered the course of where that franchise was heading, because who knows what happens if they don't win that game. But that craziness and I said I really don't remember Game 6. I don't know why, because the craziness of how that game ended carried over in the Game 6 as the teams combined for 7 first period goals in that game. It was absolutely crazy. The Blackhawks had a 3-1 lead 12 minutes into the game thanks to goals from Duncan Keith, Patrick Kane, and Patrick Sharp. Those guys were pretty good. But then Jason Arnott, who I forgot was on this team, wasn't that a guy that the Hawks were supposed to trade for every summer for like 6 years in a row?
He's one of them.
He scored 2 goals to tie the game with less than a minute to go in the first period. But then our guy, Jonathan Taves, 34 seconds after the Predators tie it, gets the eventual game-winning goal on the power play with 31 seconds left in the first period. And then not a single goal was scored the rest of the night until John Madden puts up an empty net goal with just 8 seconds left in the game. And that's the series. The Hawks have moved on to the second round, and waiting for them in the second round are those Vancouver Canucks. The rivalry was never hotter than it was at this time. It really picked up the previous season, a regular season series that really got heated. Of course, towards the end of the 2009 regular season, there was that infamous brawl game where Alex Burrows pulled Duncan Keith's hair.
Yeah.
And a trash can in here. No,
of course, the Hawks got their revenge and dispatched the Canucks in 6 games, and this was the 4th all-time playoff meeting between these two teams. And they split their 4-game regular season series But and again, this was another series that didn't start well. A 5-1 loss on home ice in game 1 to the Canucks. Second straight series, you kind of, blow a giant fart in game 1 on home ice, and you spot the team a 1-0 series lead.
Can I take a pause real quick?
Yeah, is there a dog in the studio?
Yeah, Lawrence, what is happening behind you?
Yeah. That is Billy, who
I'm leaving. I'm coming to the studio.
Yeah.
Pause the show.
She's like a little 12-week-old, I don't know, a little spaniel type.
Oh my gosh.
Very
Just running
cute.
around.
Very
Is that
cute.
Natalie's? Is that Natalie's puppy?
Natalie's new puppy.
She's not allowed to bring the puppy on
Well,
days we are remote.
She asked yesterday. She's like, "Can I bring the puppy
there
tomorrow?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." So there's a puppy
That's
around here.
fantastic. Yeah.
The
So-
answer is
so
always yes.
I'll
just-
remove
just-
myself so I don't, cause any more.
I
scares
was-
and all that.
I saw something just out of the corner of my eye on your screen, like skitter across. I was like, oh no. Like I immediately thought like giant Chicago rat or something. Like,
No, that's a cute
it's a
puppy.
dog. Okay.
You leave Dave
good.
Boland out of this.
Ah.
yeah,
Anyways, unpause. Let's get back to the the
sorry.
playoffs.
All right. Well, lose
Yeah, you know,
5-1
the-
to the Canucks.
That game 1, I remember I was my parents ended up getting tickets somehow, and they were like, "Oh, I was finishing my my second year of college," and they were like, "What's your final schedule?" And I was just like, "Oh, I had a final the next day," and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess me and Dad will go." I'm like, "Oh, cool, like thanks, like you
Have
know."
fun.
If only it was if only it was a class that I could have blown off the final and still passed, I would have totally done that. But in hindsight, I did pass the class. I was a good enough student, and I missed out on a 5-1 ass whooping, which I in hindsight I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it's good not to be there.
Yeah.
I missed that game to go to a Grateful Dead concert at the Allstate Arena, and I made the right choice that night.
Mhm.
There's so many moments like this in the playoff runs, and we call it barf cry die time, where you're for 2 months, the better part of 2 months, you're miserable.
Mhm.
You are sure you're enjoying it, right? Like the wins are great and the great moments are super fun, but my God, it is a constant stress for 3 hours a night, every other night for almost half the summer. And it is really, really stressful. And the losses feel monumental and the wins feel tiny. And it's like every bad moment is amplified and every big moment is reduced. And it's just until they win. I say this about the Cubs winning the World Series. To me, when that game was over, I was more relieved than happy.
Right.
And that's a feeling I had a lot. And I'm so glad now we're taking the time to look back on this, knowing what happened,
Right, yeah.
and being able to reflect with happy memories on this, because I'm honestly like during it was tough. It is stressful
Yeah.
to go through a playoff series like this.
If you're not, oh gosh, dog on the screen.
Real quick.
Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness.
This will
Oh,
make you feel better about a
puppy
loss.
energy.
Look at that.
No.
Love
Oh,
that.
Billy.
Billy Billy boy.
Okay,
Oh.
back to you.
Lawrence is killing me today. First, he gets a donut on the screen before we go on the air. Now a puppy. Like,
Oh,
come on,
man.
dude.
None of this
What-
stuff
what-
happens
what-
when we're there. It's
Yeah, I
weird.
know, right?
I
It's
know.
as if the Hawks
How
aren't
about that?
important.
I know.
It's like we're low on the list or something.
I'm starting to feel like the stepchild of the CHGO organization.
A little bit.
Oh well, hopefully I won't be the case for very long.
Speaking of stepchildren, the Vancouver Canucks.
Yes. Well, the Hawks rebounded again nicely, but it was another tight game in game 2. It was Christopher Stieg, my guy, good old number 32. He scored his first goal of the playoffs with a 1 minute 30 left in regulation to break a 2-2 tie. They get an empty net goal to win that game 4-2 to even the series, go back to Vancouver. And then Vancouver, the Hawks just go into the old General Motors place and just smacked the Canucks around in their own building. Game 3 was the Dustin Byfuglien show.
This is the arrival.
The
Yes,
coming
this
out
is
party.
when Dustin
Yep.
Byfuglien said, "I am here. I'm gonna announce my presence with authority.
Take a look at
Are
this.
you not entertained?" Yeah. Excuse me while I whip this out.
he literally did that. The one leg
Yeah.
up at the. What do you think of
Yep.
this right here?
Yeah.
Take a look, Vancouver.
Exactly. He scores a hat trick in game 3, the legend of Big Buff, his trade value shoots through the roof. 5-2 Game 3 victory, but not to be outdone in Game 4. Jonathan Toews scores a hat trick of his own in a 7-4 victory with all 3 goals coming on the power play. The Blackhawks scoring power play goals. This was a real thing.
What a time to be alive.
I know. Bizarro world.
Is that allowed?
Apparently.
I don't know. This was 2010. The rules might have changed.
Oh, yeah,
I
maybe.
don't know.
Right.
So they leave Vancouver with a 3-1 series lead. This is when you're like, you know what? This is going to happen this year, isn't it? Like we have gone to Vancouver and just laughed in the face of the entire province of British Columbia, and like we own this team right now. And then they came back to the United Center and beat us 4-1 in Game 5.
Something about 4-1 losses with this team.
Yeah, Kevin Bieksa scored twice. Ugh. He's a snazzy dresser on TV. That's all I can say about him. But then we go back to Vancouver, and the Hawks win the series, a 5-1 beating. All three wins in Vancouver by a combined 17-7 score on the road in Vancouver.
That'll get it done.
Pretty impressive.
I think they did that on purpose. I think they lost Game 5. They're like, you know what? Let's go to Vancouver and beat them at home.
They say they don't like Chelsea Dagger, so let's just go score all the goals in their building.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, this was the second year in a row the Blackhawks have advanced to the Western Conference Finals. Of course, in the previous year they lost to the Detroit Red Wings, but
and it was back-to-back years in the getting through Vancouver in the second round, right?
Yep.
My memory serves right.
Yep.
Okay.
And want to say Christopher Stieg, reflecting on that series against Vancouver, he says, quote, "Big boy hates Vancouver more than anyone." About Bufflin, which is awesome. Yeah,
that's great. Hey, Vancouver, beautiful city. I was there one time. It was great. But yes, the Canucks, it's a team even though the rivalries died down in recent years, it's still a team you like to beat because they still got the same colors, still look the same. You still serve the memories well.
I used to love the Canucks because I love Pavel Bure.
Yeah.
They were one of my first favorite other teams because, like, as I was learning the league, they had some really exciting, awesome players. But then when this thing started, I'm like, well, so much for that.
But
and I do love their uniforms, but
I don't even hate them anymore, though. I don't.
Yeah, there's no one on there to hate. Yeah.
No, I mean, Elias Pettersson's a great player. I like Bo Horvat. He's a good dude. They got some nice play. I mean, if you watch Quinn Hughes play hockey and say, nope, I don't like that guy, you hate fun. So like, I don't hate the Canucks. I hated the Canucks with a passion for like 4 years. And now I'm just kind of like, they were there. Yeah. It happened.
I'm going to add that one of my good buddies, during that whole 3 or 4 seasons where the Hawks were going to Vancouver every year, he's a camera guy or he used to be a camera guy for the NBC Chicago, whatever you want to call it back then. And he ended up meeting his future wife at a bar after one of the games. Oh, wow. So, I mean, I love her. She's awesome. I'm not going to,
it's a pretty cool story.
I definitely hated him back then, but now, like you said, Canucks, whatever.
Yeah. It's funny. We have an Avalanche fan here in the chat. Jason says, as an Avs fan, I can relate to your 2 months of misery and irrational anger when you think they've blown it. Obviously, we haven't won the cup yet. You will. But Game 5 versus St. Louis, when you collapsed and been waiting 20 years just to make the Western Conference Final. That's it. It is cry, barf, die. Feel free to adopt that for the Stanley Cup Finals, Jason, because you're going to need it. Get a bucket. Get a nice big bucket. Get some liners, and you'll be good to go, my friend.
And go to the DNVR bar if you want to.
If you're an Avs fan in Colorado, go hit up that bar for sure.
Yeah, it looks like an awesome time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, this guy says I look like some dude from The Big Bang Theory.
Wallowitz.
Haven't heard that one. Shazam. I don't know.
You know what? I would rather be compared to him than Aaron Rodgers.
I gotta be honest. I don't think I would. So, thanks, Michael. I don't really know what to say.
I said Shazam. It's not Shazam. It's what is it? They say in that show? Bazinga. Thank you.
Oh, he's the guy with the swoopy hair.
Yeah, the space guy with the very attractive blonde wife.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Howard is his first name.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. I'd rather be compared to Howard from the Big Bang Theory.
For Big Bang Theory fans, there you go.
Yeah. All right.
This has been Talking Big Bang Theory.
Yes. This concludes our weekly segment of What Celebrity Does Our Producer Look Like?
It fluctuates week to week.
It does.
So, Western Conference Final. That was fun. The Sharks first
Duncan, you might
playoff
miss it.
meeting. Yeah, first playoff meeting between the Sharks and the Hawks, the top 2 seeds in the Western Conference, which was kind of weird. You had the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the West. In the East, it was the 7 and 8 seed in the Flyers and Canadians going at it. So it was kind of a flip-flop. But the Hawks, they'd even despite the Sharks finishing the season with more points than the Hawks won 3 out of the 4 games in the regular season, and I never really felt threatened by the Sharks.
No.
Like, I was more worried about losing to the Canucks and the Predators than the Sharks, and the Blackhawks proved my not being worried to be correct, because
your non-worries.
They swept the San Jose Sharks, starting with 2 victories, 2 more road wins, a 2-1 win in San Jose with Antti Niemi stealing that game.
Niemi
44 saves.
Awesome.
The Hawks were completely outplayed in that game, but Niemi stood on his head. I remember that was an afternoon game, I want to say, because I remember being in a local watering hole watching that, going, what is going on here? Like, they're playing like ass, and somehow they won that game because Antti Niemi, that was probably his best game of the entire postseason.
I agree with that. And that's one of those games, too, where if you're the Sharks and the Hawks have had your number all year, including Hosa's debut where they beat him 7-2 in San Jose, you throw the Hawks your best shot and it's not enough. That is deflating, man. That's tough, because they look at themselves after the game and say, what do we got to do? 44 shots on goal against Niemi, and he stops all but one.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? And that's frustrating. In game 2, I had forgotten about this. This is the Joe Thornton, Dave Bolin game, where Thornton is slashing Dave Bolin's wrist at the faceoff dot. Then there's a moment where he hooks Bolin down and Bolin holds the stick. So he picks Bolin up again and hooks him down again. Joe Thornton just using his power to skewer Dave Bolin around the ice. But it works.
It works. Hey,
that is
drawing
Bolin
a penalty.
to a T, just pissing off the opposition.
Yep, pissing off the opposition by not allowing himself to be pissed off. Like, I'm trying to piss you off. Why are you not getting mad? And then he doesn't get mad, and then the other guy gets completely upset and off his game. That was Bolin's master. He was a Picasso of that type of play. That's the Sedins.
And
he's the I'm not touching you guy in the backseat of the car on family vacations.
And Thornton is not a guy who is known for getting thrown off his game. Like, that's not in his style. It's one thing if it's, Kevin Bieksa or whoever who plays that way. Joe Thornton would never had that reputation, and Bolin was under his skin in game 2.
Two guys that seemed to just piss off Joe Thornton was Dave Bolin and Jonathan Taves. Jonathan Taves always made Joe Thornton extra punchy too. So, maybe just not being able to beat them has that.
That usually will piss someone off if you can't.
Yes. So a 4-2 win in game 2. So the Hawks again winning on the road. They come back home with a 2-0 series lead. Everything's feeling good. Game 3. Patrick Marleau scored twice, and his second goal came in the third period to send it in the overtime. And then it's our guy, Mr. Byfuglien. He's still rolling. He scores in overtime to give the Hawks a 3-0 series lead and a 3-2 win. And you're starting to be like, okay, this is over. Like,
yeah. Well,
can we just shake hands now?
I need a minute on game 3, because game 3 was May 21st, 2010. And that morning, my wife went into labor, and we started dating into, 10 years before. I don't know how long it was before this, but whatever it was, a significant amount of time. It was like 2003 we started dating. So, and that's how we started, was going to Hawks games. Like, my friend set us up and said, hey, you both like the Hawks. You guys should go to games together. Like, okay, cool. And then started dating, and then we got married, and then we had a baby. Labor started May 21st. So we're watching game 3 on a little hospital TV. Which is 12 inches, standard def, just brutal.
Not like it is now.
No, and so labor's going slow. It's frustrating. My wife's like, "Oh my god, we've been here all day. Like, this is never going to happen." Byfuglien wins in overtime, and all of a sudden, boom, labor kicks in. Right? And that's that immediately things started going, and then Addie was born at 3 a.m. On the 22nd.
Late baby.
So yeah, she was a late night baby, and then we watched. We'll get to Game 4 here in a second, but we watched that Game 4 on that small hospital TV, laying in bed together, holding our baby. So that Shark series will always be special to me.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was a cool time to be me. The Hawks are going to the Stanley Cup final, and I'm a new father. Top that, please. I don't know if you can.
That's pretty intense. Speaking of someone who just went through that 7 months ago, I could not imagine going through that life experience and also having the Blackhawks in the Western Conference final. We've talked about the just how anxiety inducing the Stanley Cup playoffs can be. I can't imagine both that and parenthood on the horizon coming at the same time.
What's funny is it almost immediately, and I talk about this a lot, like before I had a kid, I used to fantasize about the Hawks winning the cup and like, what would it be like? How would I react? And I imagined myself as just ball of tears, right? Like I can't imagine anything better. And then as soon as she was born, it was like sports are now less meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, it was like that moment. Like the second I held her, I'm like, oh, this really doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. And I know it's like kind of, goes against what we're doing today, but really it was like, oh, okay, this is what it's all about. It's not all about what's happening on this tiny little screen in front of me.
Right.
It's about this little thing right here. And that was cool. If she was around here, I'd pull her in here, but I don't know where she went. I'm gonna guess she's on a screen somewhere.
That's probably
that's my guess.
Hopefully watching this show.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, one thing I forgot to mention about that Game 2 victory in San Jose, it was their Blackhawks' 7th straight win on the road in this postseason, which tied an NHL record for the most consecutive road wins in a single playoff. And then we get to Game 4, which the Blackhawks fell behind 2-0 midway through the second period after Patrick Marleau, who'd been kind of a pain in the butt, scored a shorthanded goal, but it was Brent Seabrook and Dave Bolin scoring before the end of the second period to tie it. And then Dustin Byfuglien with a power play goal with less than 6 minutes to go proved to be the game winner. Christopher Stieg put the icing on the cake with an empty net goal in the final minute. Jonathan Toews had an assist on the Dustin Byfuglien game-winning goal, and that set a franchise playoff record for a point in the 12th straight playoff game that broke Stan Mikita's record. So anytime you're breaking a Stan Mikita record, you've accomplished something.
Good.
That streak came to an end in Game 1 of the Cup final. Of course, Game 4 is remembered mostly for Duncan Keith losing half his teeth and then coming out and finishing the game and he exemplified what that team was all about.
He lost more teeth than he missed minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Insane. That's crazy.
It's just another example of hockey players. They toe the fine line of bravery and stupidity on a daily basis.
I
don't know if that was brave or dumb, but
it was.
It's a mixture of both. Yeah.
It was his legend.
Being on the bench, chewing on the gauze and just being like in between shifts, just blood coming out of his mouth. Just ridiculous. And it's part of his legacy.
Of course, a few weeks later, he takes the famous picture of him in the cup, smiling with no teeth. It's part of the legend. It's going to be something Blackhawk fans always remember Duncan Keith for. He'll be able to reference it at his Hall of Fame speech.
Mm-hmm.
So Hawks are in the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 1992. And we only got a few minutes left, so we got to breeze through this one.
Before we get to the final,
before we get to that,
I want to make sure today it's Thursday. It is time for the points bet play of the week, and I'm going to take a stab at it this week because been a bit of a cold streak and it's a lot of pressure. It doesn't all fall on Greg, of course, and
I've been garbage the last couple of weeks. I take the L.
Keep that up, and you're going to replace Sean someday. I've got two that I like for tonight's Tampa and Rangers game. Andre Palat as the first goal scorer is plus 1,800. I like that a lot. And the other one is plus 390. Brandon Hagel anytime goal scorer. I'm looking for big odds with likely goal scorers, and those are the two I like. So again, Andre Palat as the first goal scorer at plus 1,800 for Tampa, and then plus 390 that Brandon Hagel scores at any point during the game, putting the Hawks local angle on it. So Make sure you download that PointsBet app. Use that code CHGO when you do, and go live your bet life with PointsBet. All right, let's get to the final.
All right, so the Hawks are in the final for the first time since 1992. Marian Hossa became the first player in NHL history to make the Stanley Cup final in 3 consecutive seasons, playing for 3 consecutive teams. And the thing that blew my mind, as great as Marian Hossa is, and we love him, Marian Hossa finished the playoffs 7th in scoring on that team. There were 6 players that put up more points than Marian Hossa on that team, including Dave Bolin and Dustin Byfuglien, which just shows you how deep that team was.
Yeah.
Hawks win the first 2 games of the Cup final at home, a 6-5 crazy game.
That game was ridiculous.
Game 1 was insane. And I had forgotten how crazy game 1 was. Like
back
it
and
was
forth.
1-0 Flyers, 1-1 Hawks, 2-1 Hawks, 2-2, 3-2 Flyers. Sharp ties it at 3. Versteeg ties it at 4. And then Troy Brouwer with the 5th goal puts the Hawks up 5-4. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then we keep going. It's 5-5 with a minute left in the second. And then Thomas Kopetsky is the game winner.
Again, another guy that this team, you never knew who the hero was going to be on a night.
Yeah.
This is how you win in the playoffs. Look at the guys scoring in this game all around. Troy Brouwer had 2 goals in this game. He had 2 goals the entire playoff run coming up to that point. He had a shorty by Dave Bolin. And as we mentioned, the Thomas Kopechky goal. But look at the Flyers. They're getting goals by a guy, Blair Betts. Who the hell is Blair Betts? He sounds like an app you have to download to take the Aaron Asham. Who's that guy? So again, you're not. Remember the legend of Ville Leno that came up in that postseason, and then where did he go?
Was it Buffalo that gave him all that money?
Buffalo, ton of money, and that's how that worked.
Daniel Briere. I forget how good he was.
He was really good.
Daniel Briere was a really good player.
He was awesome in this series too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was. And then game 2 slowed down a bit, 2-1, thanks to 2 goals in 28 seconds late in the second period by Marian Hossa and Ben Eager. Simone Gagne had a power play goal to make it 2-1 early in the second period, and it was kind of tight butthole time after that. But Hawks have a 2-0 series lead with the game-winning goals being scored by Thomas Kopechky and Ben Eager. Ben Eager has a game-winning goal in Stanley Cup final history. That's insane when you think about it. You think about all the stars this team had, and those 2 guys have the game-winning goals in the first 2 games of the Cup final.
Another great.
I got your Workaholics reference, by the way. I just want to make sure you know that I got that. I was there with you.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody got it. That's one.
Yeah. Quenneville called game 2 a goalie win. Niemi was terrific in that one too, stopping 32 of 33. It's funny, like Niemi is sort of lost to history. I know it was only 1 year with him, right? He was another one of those cap casualties from whoever didn't send the fax, whatever. But there were a couple games that he absolutely stole. There were a few where he was flat out bad. It was just that's the playoffs, man, and night after night. But he was good enough to get them where they got. So better than Michael Leighton. I'll go out on a limb and say that.
That's all, and that's all he had to be.
Yep.
Well, and if you'll remember, I think Leighton was the backup going into the postseason for the Flyers, wasn't he? Wasn't Brian Boucher the starter?
Yeah.
So you never know how the playoffs are gonna
both
pan
of those
out.
Guys, Blackhawk legends, Boucher and Leighton.
Leighton and Craig Anderson were the first edition of Lankin and Delia.
Yeah. except they went on to have some NHL success.
Yeah.
And didn't not to derail everything, didn't Michael Leighton I forget what record he set with the Ice Hogs. Was it AHL career wins or something like that?
I think it might be, because he came back for a second stint with the Hogs there.
Yeah.
And he played a lot of games down in the AHL. Good guy. But he was the enemy for 6 games. Quickly, the Hawks go back to Philly, and that road winning streak comes to an end in Game 3, a 3-2 overtime loss. Claude Giroux of now currently the Florida Panthers scores in overtime, but there's Ville Leno, there's Daniel Briere scoring again for the Flyers. Keith, Sopel, and Kane get the goals for the Hawks.
Go watch the highlights of this game. The 1-0 goal that Danny Briere scores. the pass from Scott Hartnell, he's like falling away from the net and he backhands the pass right to the tape across the slot to Briere, who scores. It was one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. And again, lost to history because they lost they won that game, but they lost the series.
Right.
But that was just a beautiful play by Scott Hartnell. And he's another one of those guys who is really good for a long time, but just like not Hall of Fame worthy.
Oh man, Hartnell, that hair.
That's the kind of dude you need on a playoff team. He was a badass for the Flyers that year.
Definitely. Yeah, I did not like him, but there was a reason. Great.
What's the name of the character from Frosty the Snowman, the claymation one, the prospector?
Heat Miser. Oh,
totally.
You can't.
That's
Pete.
Scott
Cornelius.
Yeah. Yes, that's Scott Hartnell.
Cornelius. Yeah, Cornelius.
That is Scott Hartnell. Whenever he was in the playoffs, like that thick red beard.
And that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. They're right. You're
other
Mario.
Other old Christmas animated.
You got your Christmas songs confused.
What's wrong with you?
Easy mistake to make in early June.
Yeah.
This is the game where the series really started getting physical and the hatred really started piling up. You could tell these two teams were starting to really dislike each other. I'm trying to remember which game it was. I know it was. It was in Philly where Carcillo tried to hit somebody and then Kopechki got out of the way.
There he is.
And then
Carcillo
collided with a teammate and Kopechki was like, "You dumbass."
Was it Carcillo and I think Asham, the two guys that were there to do the same thing, I think did the same thing and smacked into each other.
Nope, sorry, I'm just gonna step over here now.
Blackhawks Stanley Cup champion Daniel Carcillo.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Stately wave.
There's Scott Hartnell there on our screen.
Yes. Game 4 didn't go well. Flyers win 5-3 to even the series. They got 3 goals in the first period. They were up 4-1 at one point before the Hawks got 2 late goals from Dave Bolin, our guy, and Brian Campbell, who missed the first few games of the postseason due to an injury. That was his first goal of the playoffs, but then an empty netter by Jeff Carter. I forget Jeff Carter was on that team. Iced that game. So the series has to go back to
Richards.
The Hawks.
Oh, that was the Kings. I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No,
he was
Richards,
on
Richards
that
and Carter
They were both on. Yeah.
They both went to the
Right.
Kings. Yeah,
That's
right.
After Philly.
So
Mike
series
Richards was the
shifts
captain
back.
of this team, wasn't he?
Maybe, yes.
The
I
Philly?
think so.
Yeah.
Game
Yeah.
4, Taves said that the Flyers were a totally different team all of a sudden. That's an observation they had. And then Adam Burish, reflecting on it, said, even after that loss, the Hawks were never panicked. It was a feeling of they're better than this, that the Hawks just didn't play well enough. And they knew they could be better. So there's a lot of context to these series that I've just sort of forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad I watched that recap DVD last week because it just it freshened everything up.
Well, and that speaks to, back earlier in the playoff run where they had to prove to themselves like, hey, we can do this. Like by those experiences as they pile up through a postseason, when you get to a cup final and you get to that point where you have to again overcome adversity, like when you've done it before, it makes it so much easier to just be like, we got this. And that was a team that needed to get that in their head. And that by that point they knew what they could do.
Yep.
Yeah. And game 5 proved that they weren't worried because they came out and just smoked the Flyers in game 5. It was a 7-4 final score, but it was never really that close. They were up 3-0 after the first period. Seabrook on the power play, Bolin and Versteeg. Hartnell, our buddy, Yukon Cornelius, scored early in the second period, but it was quickly answered by Kane. Future Blackhawks legend Kimmo Timonen scored, but then Byfuglien, another power play goal. So it's 5-2 heading in the third period. And then they get Sharp and Byfuglien again in the third period. It was 7-4 win, and you're like, okay, cool. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
One win away from doing it. You're feeling good, but you're going back to Philly. You haven't won in Philly yet, despite all the road success they've had in the playoffs at that point. So it's kind of like, oh, what are we going to do? And I'll never forget, my cousin was getting married, which would have been the night of game 7, it was the day of the parade, actually. And she had sent me a text message saying, hey, if the Hawks don't win tonight, am I going to see you on Friday at the wedding? I was like, nope, I will be sending my card with my parents. I'm a season ticket holder. I love you, but I am going to game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. But thankfully, we never had to have that awkward Thanksgiving dinner that year because I was able to go to both the parade and her wedding on the same day.
Nice.
Perfect. That's quite the day.
All right,
Noteworthy
I'm jumping in for game 6 because I want to be a part of this talking. So go ahead.
Real
Jay.
quick though, for game 5, that was the first time of the playoffs that Quenneville broke up Taves and Kane. He put them on different lines, and that was up to that. That was their best game of the final up to that point. And ahead of game 6, Jonathan Taves called it the longest day of his life, waiting for that game to begin. And Patrick Kane said, "All you're thinking about is having the cup in your hands."
Sounds like he was speaking to all of us.
I believe it.
That was a long day waiting for that game. I went to the Edison Park Inn in Edison Park, obviously, to watch that game. We were there at like 2:00 in the afternoon to make sure we had a nice table. So by the time the puck dropped, I was just a ball of nerves and already in the bag. So.
I was also I had the flu, and I almost didn't work because I had the exhaustion from working nights and mornings because I was doing a double at the Score all the time and dealing with a newborn. And I called Mitch Rosen. I'm like, I almost passed out in the shower. Like, I don't know if I can make it. He's like, you have to come in. You have to come in. I can't. You got to be on the air. I'm like, okay, you're right. So I rallied and just like, I felt like ass for this entire game.
You know what?
Which might have been a good thing because I got to sleep for most of the day before I went to work.
The two heroes of the 2010 Stanley Cup run, Duncan Keith and Jay Zawaski, playing hurt when it counted the most. Attaboy.
It's like there's Keith.
There's Keith. Do you have me passed out in my shower?
I don't have that. Sorry.
Jay, do you have a picture of you under a blanket with an ice pack on your head and a thermometer sticking out of your mouth?
Make sure you get a really tiny blur graphic.
Oh boy. All right. Game 6, shall we? That's the perfect segue.
There we go.
Game 6. Guess who starts the scoring? It's Dustin Byfuglien on the power play late in the first period. But in the final minute of that period, it's the guy that we just can't stand, that little pain in the ass. Scott Hartnell scores a power play goal with Danny Briere getting an assist. And it's tied going into the second period. And it's Danny Briere, his 12th goal of that postseason, man. He was so important for that run.
Again,
he put the Hawks up, or he put the Flyers up 2-1, and now you're starting to feel nervous. But less than 2 minutes later, it's former Flyer Patrick Sharp getting his revenge, tying the game, and then Andrew Ladd scores just a huge goal late in that second period, just his third of the playoffs. Which, you know, again, just shows you that team. Like Andrew Ladd's a great player, but like he was doing the little things you needed. He didn't have to be the goal scorer, and he puts the Hawks up late. And they go into the third period up 2-1.
In that second period, Pierre McGuire, everybody's favorite, pointed out, he said the Flyers are out of gas and they cannot contain Chicago. And the game did sort of have that feel up to that point where it was just a matter of time until the Hawks broke through.
Mm-hmm.
But then they kind of like for the third, kind of took their feet off the gas a little bit. And they were trying, which is understandable. They're up 3-2. With
they're playing the old prevent defense, and what does the prevent defense usually do? Prevents you from winning.
There you go.
They definitely were playing not to make a mistake, and eventually it's Scott Hartnell, that guy again. He ties the game with less than 3 minutes to go, and you were just like, son of a bitch.
And if I remember correctly, that goal was kind of pinball-y, right? Like that, like it was thrown at the net.
It hit Host's
bounces
knee,
off. Yeah.
And then Hartnell's stick.
Yep. It was a greasy goal, my friend. It was Hartnell assisted by Ville Leno and Daniel Briere. I mean, those were the three best players in the Philly lineup.
Game for Briere.
Yeah, I mean, I remember those guys in the series, and yet I forget Mike Richards and Jeff Carter were a thing on that team. So that just goes to show you that type of series. You need a line like that to get to this point. So overtime we go, and of course, 12 years ago today, 4:06 in the overtime. Patrick Kane, from like the most impossible angle, flings a backhand shot to the net, and then starts like he skates behind the net. Players are trying to check him. He's like, "Get off me! I just won the goddamn Stanley Cup." And gloves are off. People are trying. I had no idea what was going on. The only person in the building that knew he had scored was Patrick Kane. Like even the Flyer, everybody's standing around. I remember it sucked in a way because it's an overtime Stanley Cup clinching goal that you had no idea he had scored. It wasn't the like quick reaction where everybody can be like going crazy. It was kind of like two people started cheering, then four people, then everybody's on the ice, and you're like, I guess it's a goal. Then they review it, and it's like,
well, Nick Boyden had like a momentary like, like
it was like the most anticlimactic championship goal I had ever seen, because everybody where I was in the bar was just kind of like, what, yay,
Yeah.
yay, all right.
You-
Like, it was
you
crazy.
You go back and watch the highlight, which you can find on our CHGO Blackhawks Twitter account, as well as the CHGO Sports Twitter account. We put those out this morning. You go back and you watch the highlight, and Kane scores, and the only other player that is like with him is Patrick Sharp, because he had the exact same angle of, you know, seeing the play happen from behind him, and those two are celebrating. Everyone's just kind of following them. And the you know, I watched back the 2010 DVD as well recently, and they have a great shot in there of just all the players like going down the ice to meet Kane, and as he jumps on Niemi, and they're all just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
like looking back at the net, like, is it a goal?
Especially Taves was like arms around people, like looking like suspect over his shoulder.
Yeah,
like, should
they're
we
all just like
be?
looking back.
I don't want
at
to
the net.
jinx it, you know.
And
Yeah.
wasn't it? I believe the story is like, I think it's Duncan. It was either Duncan Keith or Brent Seabrook. Like, didn't go to the pile until they knew it was a goal, and then it was the second celebration they went into it. Something like that. Someone did that.
There's a shot in the highlight where they show the coaching staff and they got their arms around each other, but they're
Yeah.
kind of like, hold on, we can't, we got to be the responsible ones here. And then they announce the goal and they start going crazy.
Yeah.
I remember we talked to Brent Sopel a couple years ago about the 10-year anniversary, and he talked about how he was kind of at the edge of that pile behind the net, but looking back at the Flyers goal to see what was going on before really know what was happening.
Well, it's funny,
Yeah.
like watching the highlight now, it's like, well, where else would it have been?
Right.
You know, it's not like
yeah.
it was anywhere else. Like the only thought was, is it under Leighton's
Stuck
pad,
in his
not over
pads,
the line?
yeah.
But I mean, where else would the puck have gone? If it's not in the net, then it's somewhere else on the ice, and clearly everyone knows where that is. But it's just, again, I remember. So me and Matt Abatacola had to go on the air as soon as the game ended. Like the second it ends, we're supposed to be on, and we're like, do we go? Are we supposed to go now? Like we had kind of the same reaction of like, yeah, what do we? Didn't know if we should celebrate or go like rush to the. So we just like ran to the studio, and then in there, like the TVs haven't been, because we're on like whatever CBS Sports Radio until the game ends, so no one has switched the channel. So we got to switch the TV on, see what happens, and I'm like, all right, we're on the air like right away. It was just chaos.
Wow.
The whole thing was chaos, and I think that's the word that Doc Emmerich used.
What chaos?
It was
That's
chaos,
where
and it's the perfect word for it. And how funny, we had an Avalanche fan in the chat with us just now. It's same deal for them the other day, you know, in overtime. Like, was that a high stick or not?
You got to review a series clinching goal.
But at least they knew that puck was in the net. It just mattered if it was going to count or not.
Count.
Nobody even knew what the hell had happened at that point. Nobody saw the puck. It somehow got lodged in between the bottom of the net and the ice, so you literally couldn't see it.
Well, and it's funny too. You watch back the highlight, and if you listen real carefully, like right as after Kane shoots the puck, you hear a little thud, and that was when like the goal camera behind the goalie, that's when they had that like I think it was like a box covering the microphone, and every now and then you would see a goal score and you'd hear this thud instead of like a ping or whatever, and it was the puck hitting that box. And it's just so funny to think back, because you hear it and it's just like, oh, it sounds like a goalie pad, and then you think
Same
back,
sound.
you're like, oh, it's hitting that box. Yeah, it's just wild. I remember watching the game with my family at my parents' house, and my dad was doing the Patrick Kane. He was jumping around. He was like, "They scored! Yeah, that puck's in. That puck's in." And I'm like staring at the TV. I'm like, I don't see the puck. Where is it? And then they show the replay, and I join them doing laps around the house. It's one of my favorite memories.
So I was at West End, which of course, you know, RIP West End down the street here on Madison, and I think I'm with Greg on that, where like it was kind of an anticlimactic thing, but then you just kind of started celebrating, and it was just like at that point you've had a few beverages and it was just chaos. But like for me, I mean, my whole day was just wild getting in there, because West End was like the Blackhawks bar,
the place to be
at that time. Yeah.
So I showed up around 3:15 after work, and it opened at 4, and the line was already like around the corner down that block there. And thankfully it was kind of our bar we would go to most like Fridays, whatever. So we knew Bald Mike, who is my guy. He was like the GM there. And I just happened to see him as he was walking in at like 10 to 4. And he's like walking into like some alley back door thing. And I'm like, yo, Bald Mike, what's up? And he grabs me and pulls me with him into the basement of West End. And so I'm there with like 3 other people, and we're just kind of in the basement waiting till bar open. And once 4 o'clock hits, they let us go upstairs, and all the few of us that were in there, we each got our tables, got an awesome table. I had like 8 of us that showed up. Hi, Billy. And like, so, I mean, that night was just wild, but it ended up after the game, my now wife, former girlfriend at the time, that was the picture.
Hey.
It was actually posted on Channel 5's website.
Oh.
And I was like, whoa, how did that, like, nice photo. And so I was able to get that photo, and now it's just something that I always have. Look at that beard.
That's
good
pretty
times. Good times.
Good stuff. I remember
like the respect on the old Hawks logo with the gold outline.
That's Savard, right?
Savard. Yep.
Yeah,
That's the CCM that has the fight strap and everything.
Yep,
it's
that's
way
authentic.
too large for me, but it was a good time.
You never know when they're going to call you out of the crowd to play. You got to be ready to go.
Yep.
Exactly.
No,
It happens.
I remember as soon as the kind of settled down, the first thing I did after wiping tears away from my eyes was I quickly ran outside to call my dad, because I knew my dad had literally, like, my dad's the biggest reason that I got into hockey. But I knew I had like a 2-minute window, because I knew he would watch the game, that goal was scored, he would click off the TV and go right to bed. You know, he had to be up in the morning. So I was like, I've got to call my dad before he goes to sleep, or else he's not going to answer the phone. And I'm like, in a typical conversation with my dad, hey, the Hawks won the cup. Yeah, I saw. It's just amazing. He's like, yeah, it was pretty cool. I got to go to bed. Talk to you tomorrow. Click. Like that was, but I was like, that was the one person
You
I
got-
had to share
you got
that
the call
moment
in,
with.
yep.
And I'm glad I did that, because that was the only one of the 3 cups my dad was around for. So, you know, it was a special moment that I don't.
Greg, here's your photo.
There's
Greg.
me.
There's Greg.
Same jersey I'm wearing today, actually.
Nice.
Right
Yo.
there. Nice.
Somebody snapped me in my reaction to them winning the cup there. That jersey fits a lot better today than it did back then. That's for sure.
Yes.
That's good. Good
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I was sick, and I was doing the post-game show. Hope was sicker than I was. She was at my in-laws because she couldn't even handle Addie. Like, she was too sick to handle the baby. So she's like, is it over? Okay, I'm going to bed. It's like, like we both joked, like, we'd give anything for the Hawks to win a cup, and we sacrificed our health in our level of
What it
celebration that night to do it. But it was
you,
totally worth it,
and
man.
Duncan Keith are the heroes of that cup run. I mean,
Hey,
you
more hope than
sacrificed
me.
so much.
Hope was really, really, like, we were like, hospital, you're probably okay, kind of sick. So yeah, it was, but being on the air when that ended, being able to talk to players on the ice as they're celebrating, and it was like 3 minutes, like, you know, it's incoherent, but like, talk to Dave Bowen and talk to Taves and talk to John McDonough and talk to, you know, everybody who was anybody who jumped on the air for I think Mayor Daley jumped on for a minute. The whole thing was a blur. And the thing I remember most about that show was finally like choking up and losing my emotions, thinking about all the dudes I used to hang out with at Hawks games. Like, I used to be part of blackhawkzone.com. I don't know if you guys remember that website. It was like a very early Blackhawks forum. And everybody from that page sat in section 329, season ticket holder or not. We would all head there and hang out, and still lifelong friends with a lot of those people. And those were the people like I was thinking about in that time, was like, well, I wonder how Hunt is celebrating and Heather is celebrating and Frank is celebrating right now. And I wish I could be there with them to do it, because we never thought this would happen.
Yeah.
You know, and to have it finally happen, all of us apart, you know, it's just cool. And I'm so glad. I never thought I'd see one. The fact that I saw 3, I can die happy now, but I still want a couple more, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong being greedy.
Yeah, I'll take a couple.
Why not?
more, please.
I'll take a couple more.
And I
But
can't wait to do it with you fellas on this show someday.
Yes, in 2026. Are we saying 5? What are we saying?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
One of the coolest things I want to bring up is it's something that I didn't find until maybe like 2 years ago. Over on YouTube, if you go to the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame's official thing, I'm not going to show the actual video, but so
Cool.
They have
The dressing room?
14 minutes of dressing room footage. It's crazy, all the things that are in here.
Wow.
I'll just kind of scroll through here and just see. I mean, there's just like, there's the cigars, and then there's like.
Is this where Q did the weird the shimmy with the cup over his head?
Was that this year?
Yeah, it might have been that. Like,
it's
there's
the
a
same
great
outfit, but that's not
there's
saying
a great
much.
Kopetsky moment in here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just there's
Crazy.
so
is
much
this
good stuff in
the
here.
video where you catch the unfortunate words on the blackboard next to Chris Pronger?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
No,
but
that
yeah.
was. I think that might have been like a pregame video or something.
Okay.
But yeah.
But it's just why. Like, this is the Kopetsky. You got to watch. If you're a Hawks fan, you got to go sit and watch it's 14 minutes and 30 seconds. Hockey Hall of Fame. Blackhawks celebrate 2010 Stanley Cup championship. It's crazy that there's all this access, that they just still have this out there on the YouTubes, and like I don't know.
when you were allowed in locker rooms after games.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
right.
Crazy
wild.
time.
It's the wildest stuff. Like, there's a good kiss between Sharpie and I think Ladd. It's great stuff. Great stuff.
2014, this video was put up there. So,
Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's very cool. Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean, look, the happy memories are going to be few and far between in the next few years, but
gotta take it where you can.
If it leads to what we just were able to celebrate, it's all worth it.
Worth it. Totally
And
worth it.
hopefully Hawks fans stick through this rebuild. It's going to be long. It's going to have painful moments, but also a lot of moments of hope and optimism. And, rebuilds can be fun. To see these players start from scratch and become superstars is really, really rewarding. And whether or not it happens on the level it did during the 2010s remains to be seen. But you don't have to be great to win a Stanley Cup. This dynasty was great. But you look at the Rangers and you look at some of the teams that have chances. It's not always a dynasty, but you can get good, you can get lucky, you can ride a hot goalie, and magical things can happen. And can't wait to celebrate those things down the road with everyone who's listening, everybody who's joining us on the chat, and especially with Greg, Mario, and Lawrence, of course. So
Hop on the
and
ride.
Billy the dog.
Yes.
Billy's
going to be a full-grown dog when we win the cup again.
We need Billy to eat some dog food out of the Stanley Cup someday when they bring it to the CHGO offices.
Yes.
Ooh,
Good call.
I have to clean that one up.
How good is that going to look on the table in front of us for a show?
Yeah.
Huh?
Hey, you know what?
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah, we'll take it.
Why not?
All right, I want to remind everybody, hey, you know what? If you enjoyed this show, become a member at allchgo.com. Go to allchgo.com. You're going to get access to all of our great written web content, access to our members-only Discord. You'll get a free CHGO shirt from the CHGO locker for signing up. It's a great value. Mario's rocking the Bulls one. I have that one as well. I just ordered the Fire one yesterday because it is fire, as the kids say. It looks absolutely awesome. So that's on the way. I'll be wearing that in studio next week. So yeah, jump on allchgo.com. Your membership helps us out, keeps us, sustained and doing well. And that's very important. So sign up and we will talk to you on Friday. Reminder, our coaches list is growing, but tomorrow we're going to talk to the Athletics' Tariq Al-Bashir about Todd Reardon, about his time in DC, how he was as a head coach. So we're going to start breaking down these coaching candidates. And I know we're going to start something called Future Hawks Friday, probably a little bit on the unofficial level tomorrow. But Mario, when's your piece coming out on on your second round draft targets? Is that out today? Is it
tomorrow.
Out later today? Comes out tomorrow.
That'll be tomorrow. We can talk a little bit about that. I mean, we're getting to draft time, so it's it's time to start looking at some draft prospects that the Blackhawks might be able to target, and some prospects in the system that they might lean on in the next few years. So
no better time to become a member at allchgo.com. So for Greg and Mario and for Lawrence, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to today's CHGO Blackhawks podcast.